Now, in this next lesson, I want to talk about the float property. And I also want to show you some examples on how it works. This is a bit of a complicated topic, but I'm sure after the lessons you will be able to understand how you can maximize the use of the float property in case that you will need to use it for layouting your elements inside of your document. We will also be talking about the other property that goes hand on hand with it, which is the clear property. So now let's go to our document here. Let's create a new file. Let's name it floatproperty.html for our exercise. And inside of that, I would want to create an HTML5. Now let's go and replace this document title here with float property exercise. Now let's go inside of our body element and then create 5 sections. So multiplied by 5 here, and then let's go and create an H1. I'm sorry, it should be H1 here. Float property exercises. So let's have an HR element in each of the sections here, so at least we will be able to distinguish the location. Let me just go and copy paste that. Then here and here. Let's save that. Now let's go and open our document here. So you would see that we have HR elements that are displayed on our browser here. Now in each of the sections, let's go and put some text here. So I would want to go and put here H2 elements, and in each of the H2 elements I want to have example 1, example 2, example 3, example 4, example 5. Let me just correct this here. And this one also. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go and save that. Let's see what will happen on our browser here. So we have example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now let's go back to our code editor here, and inside of our head element, let's go up our head element and then select our body element, then give it a background color of RGB 252.140.158. Let's save that. Let's see how it will look like on our page. So we have a variation of pink here. Now let's go back to our code editor, and then inside of our sections, I would want to go and have div element, a container, div container 1. Now let's go and copy this inside of the other section. So this will have div containers in each of the sections. Let's go format this. Now let's go change this to 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's save that. Now let me just close this and then go and put here example 1. Let's have container 1. Save. Now let's go and give this a background color of white, then width of 90%, and height of 100 viewport height. So let's go and save that and check our document here. So we now have our container here. Now let's go back to our code editor here. One way for us to center that will be to use the margin 0 top and bottom, and then let's give it a value of auto for the left and right. So this will be centering the div, the container. Save that. Let's check our browser here. So you would see that we now have our container centered inside of our body element. Now I want to go back to our code editor here and go inside of our container 1, and then let's create two div elements here with a blue box multiplied by 2 and a red box. Now inside of the blue box and the red box, I would want to have two paragraph tags or one paragraph tags each with a class of example -1 and 2. Let's just go and add some lorem ipsum text here. Let's go and format our document. See what will that look like inside of our, let me just replace this with number 2. Now let's look at our document here. Let's refresh. So we have two paragraphs here now inside of our float property exercise example 1. Now I want to go back to our element here and then go and select our blue box and the red box and the ex1 and the ex-2 here. So of course we want to give this a background color of blue, and the other one here will be background color of red. Now let's replace this with a red box here. Let's save that. Now let's go give each of the boxes some width and height. So I want a width of 400 pixels for the blue box and height of 350 pixels for the height of the blue box here. Let's just copy that here, so at least we'll have some examples here. So we now have a blue box and a red box. I just want to go and bring out the two paragraphs first from the divs just for this exercise. So let me just go and Control X that, but it's still inside of our container. So at least you would see what will that look like here. Let me just format this, save, then open our browser. So we have them stacked from here. We have the blue red div and then the paragraph 1 and paragraph 2. Now if we go back to our code editor here and go to our blue box and give it a float property of left, let's see what will happen. So we can see here that the red box is now gone because it's behind the blue box, because the blue box is now floating and is now taken out of the document flow, the normal document flow. It's not like absolute positioning from where you will be totally removing the element from the document flow. It's still part of the document flow, but it was removed from its space. So if we try to give this an opacity, let me just go back to our code editor here and let's lower down the opacity of our element here. Let's save that. Let's also go give it a margin left of 20 pixels. Now let's go and see what will happen on our browser here. You would see that the blue box is actually on top of the red box. So it's still there. It was just floated, and the red box now had occupied its regular space in the document flow. So the red box, the paragraph 1 and the paragraph 2. Just remember that the float property here will be placing an element either to the left or to the right of our parent container. So we have the parent container, with the one with the white background here. You would see that we were able to move the blue box on the right side of the parent container. And if we go back to our code editor here, and if we go and float this to the left, let's see what will happen. We can see that the text wrapped around our red box here. So that's why it's there right now. It's placed on the side of our red box here. If we go back to our code editor and try to decrease the size of our red box here, let's say 100 by 100 pixels. So let's see what will happen here. Then go back to our browser here. You will see that the text is wrapped around our red box. One keynote here, everyone, is that the text will be wrapping around the box. It will not be going underneath the element. But if we go and try to give a background color to our paragraph elements here, let's see what will be happening. So let's go and go here, background color of, let's say, green. Let me just go and give this a green color too. And then, or let's say, not green, so at least we'll have a bit of change or distinguishment between the two paragraphs here. So let's have yellow color, and then let's go and decrease the opacity of the red box here. So at least you would see what's happening. So if we go and do that, you would see that we have our block elements here, which are the two paragraphs that is occupying the whole width of the container. Okay, if we remember, if we inspect our element here and we go and select one of our paragraphs, these are block elements. Let's see here. So you would see that the display is a block element. So now we know that the paragraph here is still a block element that occupies the whole width of the container. However, in case of the float property, when we use the float property, the text will not be going underneath the element from where we declare the float property. It will be wrapping around it. So just remember, the text will not go underneath the floating items. But if we go and try to, let's say I go back to our code editor here, and then let's go and try to give the red box a margin right first. So we want to give it a margin of, let's say, 40 pixels. Let's see what that will look like in our browser here. So let me just refresh. You would see that we have 40 pixels from the right of the red box that we have here. So it was moved 30 pixels away from the margin right of our red box. But if we go and give it a 0 pixels and let's go refresh, you would see it's sitting beside the red box. But if we want the text to go under the red box, what we can do here is to give it a negative value. Let's say 20 pixels here. So let me just open our browser here. Let's see what will happen. You would see now that the text is under the red box. It's now below the red box. So the negative value is the one that we can use to make text go underneath the red box. The 0 pixels is the wall actually that keeps the text from going below the floating item. Now let's go and try to give this back or bring this back to width of 400 and 350 pixels. Let's see what will that look like in our project here. So you would see that the text here is still negative 20 pixels to the right of the red box. And now if we want to clear the two paragraphs here and make sure that they are cleared from the floating items, and we want them to follow the normal document flow, so the blue box, the red box, the green paragraph, and the yellow paragraph here, what we can use to do this will be to use the clear property with the value of both. So if I go back to our document here and go back to our paragraph here, example 1 for the paragraph, and I give it a value of clear both, let's see what will happen to our document here. So you would see that the paragraph was cleared from the float. So it followed the regular document flow. So if I go and go back to our document here and give this a float right, let's see what will happen. So at least you'll have an idea on what's happening here. So you would see that the blue box is 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 still on the right side of the container, and then it is followed by the red box. And still, the elements or the paragraphs here, the element paragraphs here are cleared from the floating items, the two floating items here, and they are both placed here below the two floating items that follows the document flow, the normal document flow. The clear property will be specifying on which sides of an element or floating elements are not allowed to float. So we can actually go and specify here, right? Let's see what will happen. You would see nothing's happening because we are floating our items to the right. Nothing is happening because we are not allowing any floated items or elements on the right side of the paragraph 1 that we have here. So if we go give this a left, let's see what will happen here. We would see that because there's no floating element on the left side of the element here, it allowed floating items on the right side of the paragraphs that we have here, on the paragraph 1 and paragraph 2 that we have here. That is the reason why they wrapped on the left side of the two floating elements that we have here that are floating to the right. So technically, we did not allow any floating elements to the left side, but we allowed it to be on the right side. So the paragraph elements here wrapped around the left side of the floating items that we have here. If you're wondering why is the paragraph 2 allowing the two items here to float on the right side of the paragraph 2 element, if we go and try to click on our developer tools here and then use the inspect element, we can see that we have the paragraph 2 here selected, and we can see that the float property has a default value of none for the paragraph element. And the default value none will be allowing floating elements on both sides of the paragraph element. Now let's try to go and select our paragraph 2 here, so at least we would be seeing what will happen if we clear right for our paragraph 2 here. So let's go and refresh this. Let's see what happens. So you would see this is not allowing any floating elements on its right side. That's why we were able to clear the floating elements that we have here, and we just follow the normal document flow here. So if we go and try to give this a value of left, let's see what will happen. Again, because we are allowing floating items on the right, but we are not allowing floating items to the left. Now, we have our paragraph 2 here moving up here in the document flow that allowed it to wrap itself on the left side of the floating items that we have here. And if we go and give this a value of none, okay, we would see that nothing happened because, again, when we say the value is the default value, which is none, it allows floating elements on both sides of the element that we have here, the paragraph 1 and the paragraph 2. Here, we are not allowing the floating items to be on the left side of this paragraph element. Here, we have a default value of none, which allows it to have floating items on both sides. I know that this is a bit confusing, so my advice would be to follow the convention on how to maximize the use of the clear property, and that is you using the both value that just simply means that there should be no floating elements allowed on either the left or the right side of the element from where we declared the clear property. So if we go and check on our project here, let's see what will happen. We will see that the two paragraphs here were pushed down here because now they are, the paragraph 1 here is declaring that it doesn't want any floating items on both the left and the right side of paragraph 1. And because this one is following the default value, which is none, it will be following the normal document flow, which will be red, blue, paragraph 1, paragraph 2. So I'm hoping that you're getting the idea here. And as we go along with the other exercises that we will be doing for this project or for this specific topic, which is the float property, I'm hoping you will be having a more deeper understanding on how to maximize the float property in positioning your elements for layout and design.